Paper versus tablet. Let's talk about it. Is it just me, or have a lot more students started using tablets lately? You can see an increase of sales over the years, especially during the pandemic, when everything went online.
So the idea is that I had to teach a small number of students in person, and then the rest would be online. So I had to think of a method in which both students would experience the same sort of learning strategy. First few months, it was actually in hybrid mode. The main thing I found that it really did help to sort of organize myself for sure.
But are tablets really that much better than paper? And should you be investing in one? The advantages of writing notes on a tablet versus paper is obvious from the get-go. If you care about the environment, then going for a tablet is the obvious option.
I use an iPad, and I think it's the best of both worlds between traditional pen and paper and a laptop, because you can draw and you can type if you have a keyboard extension attachment that you can put onto your iPad.
I think it's better because I am aware more of what I'm writing as I'm writing it, I think. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of difference between writing on a tablet versus writing on a paper, considering you're still handwriting it rather than typing it, but I think it's just a personal preference more to me. I don't know if there's necessarily a way to say that one is better than the other, but to me, I always thought paper was better. I think one of the disadvantages, in my opinion, of writing with paper is the environmental impact. So that's something that I've always been a little bit conscious of in terms of using my notebook all the way through versus throwing out a half-used notebook, stuff like that. Whereas with a tablet, obviously, it's all environmentally friendly in terms of not throwing out or wasting paper and stuff like that. So I guess there's a win some, lose some there, but yeah.
After all, they waste no paper and are easier to carry around in your backpack. But those aren't the only advantages of writing notes on a tablet. If you look it up anywhere, you'll find that most sources will agree that tablets are, of course, easier to carry, easier to share notes with, and easier to follow along in your lectures.
I find that it's way more convenient. I can split screen my notes, my PDF textbook. I can easily sort through all of my files. It's just really organized. I love it. My note-taking app links up really well with Quirkus and with other messaging apps like WhatsApp and Messenger. So when I want to share my notes, it's really easy to do that.
I think it depends on the professor for one, because some of them have awful handwriting, which makes it hard to understand even at the best of times. But a lot of my professors don't use tablets right now, unless they're doing online stuff, of course. But anything in person, most of them either write on the board or send out handouts. A lot of them do not use tablets, actually.
For some people, especially lecturers, taking notes on a tablet has become a revolutionary thing.
For me, predominantly, it was mostly driven by the shift to online. So that was what triggered me first of all to do it. Because previously I would just sort of do chalk talk right on the whiteboard or blackboard, my notes. But this sort of triggered online. We had to sort of think of ways to provide a learning experience where it would be equivalent to both in person and online. Most of my students sort of inspired me to sort of use the tablet for teaching and whatnot. I would say I got it from them.
But there's also disadvantages to taking notes on a tablet. Let's look at Apple's cheapest iPad. They list it for $429, and that doesn't even include the Apple Pencil, which adds another $129 on top of that. And let's not forget the tax that comes with that. Not to mention, like all technology, tablets can be unreliable at times. Say you forget to charge it at night, or if something random happens with your cloud backups and you lose everything. In that case, you might run into a little bit of trouble. There's also a little bit of a learning curve. when you start taking notes on a tablet. With paper, you're so used to the different textures and different pens that you have that once you switch to tablet, all you have is a smooth surface, one pen, all the time. And let's not forget the pressure that you're putting on that screen as you're putting on paper. This can result in a learning curve.
And I say the only learning curve really is that for the Samsung tablets, they don't have like the palm rejection sort of feature. So you have to kind of write with your hand sort of floating in the air. So for the first couple of weeks, I was struggling to do that. But then I got my iPad with the Apple Pencil. And then it essentially like allows you to write as if you're writing on paper. So as soon as I was able to make that transition, I felt like there was no learning curve anymore after that.
On a digital interface, you maybe either make a quick scribble, or it seems easier to do it and more transient in a way, something that doesn't stay with you. So I use pen and paper, and I use it because while it doesn't detach me from the messages that I'm listening, it also allows my inner system to move a little bit slower and translate what I hear, from ear to brain to pen, paper. So there is a few intermediate steps where things get a chance to be worked out.
Aside from the natural feel, paper has a bunch of advantages as well. For starters, there's no crazy price tag or no battery to charge.
Honestly, I can't afford all of a laptop or a whole new tablet right now, so I stick to paper. I mean, a $13 notebook is much more applicable to my life than dropping, $300 on a tablet or whatever. So I just stick to what I know. And I'm not very tech savvy either, so I have a really hard time picking up on all the new programs and apps and how to do this and what kind of pen you need to use that. And so for more of my other friends, I have friends that do use tablets, and it seems very convenient, but it's something that I don't know if I'd be able to pick up on or use in an advantageous way, if that makes sense.
Honestly, I find that the amount of people that take notes on pen and paper are about the same as people who use an iPad. And I think that's mainly because iPads are not very cost accessible to people. They're about the same price as a Mac or a laptop. So, but otherwise, I think everybody would start using an iPad if they could.
Most of the people that we interviewed agreed that taking notes on paper makes them recall certain notes that they took a lot better. And indeed, this agrees with a previous study that found that taking notes on paper as opposed to tablet increased brain activity and recall of notes later on.
I think mostly it's a personal preference over anything else. I mean, I've always just enjoyed stationery as a person, but I also always heard that you can memorize things better when you write them out versus, anything else. So I've kind of stuck with that throughout my academic career.
But let's pause here for a second and think about this. For those who write their notes on paper, are you able to find your notes as quick or as efficient as you would on a tablet? See, this is the problem with most people who write notes on paper, including myself. If you asked me right now to go back to my high school notes or even the notes that I took in my first couple of years of university, I would not be able to find those notebooks. This requires high organizational skills, which not everybody has. Only some.
Still doing it, and I have here examples from this is, look, I don't know if you can see the date, 1601, 1996. This was 2 weeks into my PhD. And I was looking at learning nonlinear optics, right? I was studying on my own with my friends from this book, and I took notes, and you will recognize optics in here, prisms, and all the stuff that I was doing at that time. Nowadays I take notes from faculty meetings, group meetings, so I still have the habit of writing a few notes just to summarize. When I look back, they serve as as an entry point.
Do you feel like you lose that aspect when you switch over to digital notes?
I think that's a really cool way of thinking about it, actually. I've never given it that much thought, but you're right. I think on a tablet, everything would probably look the exact same on all of your pages. It'd just be writing. But with notebooks, like he was saying, you can totally tell where you're at and what your page looks like based on everything around it and what you're looking at before and after certain pages of notes. That's kind of interesting, actually.
So, should you invest in a tablet or stick to what you know and love? The answer ultimately comes to you. If you're willing to learn how to get used to taking notes on a tablet and you have the money to spend for it, then it might be the right option for you. Those who have gone a tablet will tell you that there's not a single moment where they have regretted spending that amount of money. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing and liking this video. We have a lot more coming. See you on the next one.